Top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Caroline Dubois' continued interest in facing former unified super featherweight champion Mikaela Mayer, saying that a fight with her could sell out the O2 Arena. Caroline Dubois, the former Olympian turned unbeaten up-and-comer in the women's lightweight division, has developed a hankering for a big fight, and she's eyeing Mikaela Mayer and Matchroom's own Rhiannon Dixon.
So she's not too keen on facing Beatrice Ferreira.
Sweet Caroline believes a Mayer fight could possibly sell out the O2 Arena next year. The 2020 Olympian is targeting a fight with the United States' former unified champion. Dubois promoter Ben Shalom called out Mayer
after Caroline's last fight with Argentina's own Yanina Lescano.
Your call last month.
Yeah.
This won't be the first time that we've broached the subject here on the channel and how unrealistic the fight is. Until there's something in it for Mikaela Mayer, there's just no reason for her to share the ring with Caroline Dubois. Not yet. In the absence of an alphabet title or a big check, I just don't see the fight happening, not in the near future. The network relationship exists between Top Rank, Sky Sports, and Boxer.
But the fight is not worth now what it could be worth later.
Mayer moved up to 135 pounds after her loss to Alicia Baumgartner, who's going to be in action later on this month. The American is the WBC interim champion at lightweight and hopes to challenge for the world title and or secure a fight with Katie Taylor in the near future. Shalom would need to put in a substantial offer to incentivize Mayer to fight the young, dangerous contender, but a clash between the pair would be a fan-friendly affair. I would take it right now, Dubois told Slothbox, but I don't think it'll happen right now.
And she's right.
But what would a fight like that look like? A fight between Caroline Dubois and Mikaela Mayer? What you have to say is that Mikaela is certainly a more experienced fighter than Caroline Dubois, and more experienced than most every fighter that Caroline has fought so far, with a higher ceiling.
Better skill set.
I would take the fight right now, Dubois told Slothbox, but I don't think it'll happen right now, and I don't think that it needs to happen right now. It needs to be built. It needs to get bigger. The 22-year-old doesn't see the point in staging the bout next, as it isn't as big as it could be, and thinks that further marination is needed to make it into a sizable event. I need to continue winning and putting on great victories, and really putting my name out there, myself, and really exciting people. She needs to continue doing what she is doing.
The sooner it happens, the more it favors the more experienced fighter.
The longer it takes to make, the more it favors Caroline Dubois, who still needs to get more rounds in the bank, amass more experience, share the ring with other experienced fighters to prepare her for a Mikaela Mayer, a statuesque fighter, a tall drink of boxing with a very good jab and good distance control.
Better distance control than anybody Caroline's fought so far.
Caroline Dubois, who says maybe by the end of this year, early next year, we can headline at the O2 Arena, sell out, and have a great co-main.
Beef lo mein.
It'll be up to Caroline Dubois to make her way past Mikaela Mayer's piston-like jab. It's a judicious jab. In many ways, it's Mikaela Mayer's most effective punch.
The silver lining for Caroline is that she is a southpaw,
whereas Mikaela is an orthodox fighter, leading with her left hand and Caroline leading with her right. If Caroline moves right
to her right,
get on the outside of Mikaela Mayer's jab to set up a straight left hand, backhand down the pipe, a strong one. Caroline Dubois is a strong puncher.
Very strong.
And a sharp puncher. Stronger and sharper, I'd wager, than Mikaela Mayer, though accustomed to getting a lot of respect. Accustomed to wearing her opponents out.
Opponents that don't have Mikaela's jab or distance control, most of which don't have Mikaela's height and length.
I mean, so far so good with Caroline Dubois based on who she's been fighting, but she hasn't fought anybody like Mikaela Mayer. Caroline Dubois believes a fight between herself and Mikaela could fill up the 17,000 capacity O2 Arena. A big ask considering that Mayer is an international fighter and Dubois isn't a big name yet, but is en route to becoming one.
Hard to imagine that they could fill out 17,000 capacity O2 Arena in a non-title fight. That being said, there's more work needs doing. This fight really does need more marination, though looking at it, the sooner it happens, the more it favors Mikaela.
The longer it takes to make, the more it favors the younger fighter, the fresher fighter. That fighter is Caroline Dubois, and I think that's the silver lining for her, that we're not actually on the eve of this fight.
though, how much longer will Michaela and Carolyn campaign at the same weight?
Kayla's targeting a fight with Katie Taylor, or at minimum, a newly vacated WBC title. And if that takes too long,
She might move up. You see, Natasha Jonas just became IBF champion at welterweight. That seems a more realistic fight to me for later on this year than Carolyn Dubois.
Tasha Jonas is already an established name and a two-division champion. I feel like if Michaela had to choose who she fights next, she'd fight Natasha before she fights Carolyn.
Just wonder if that's a fight that Natasha is receptive to.
So, as fascinating a fight as Mayer versus Dubois might be, we're not on the eve of that. Men's lightweight news, the ongoing back-and-forth action between Shakur Stevenson and reigning undisputed lightweight champion Devin Haney, who responded to Rick Glacier's tweet stating,
Devin Haney making Shakur an offer is comical, and there's actually people falling for it. Anyone with any boxing brains knows that Bob Arum isn't going to allow an offer for Shakur to go fight on another platform.
To which Devin Haney responded, Bob Arum is the one that relayed the message.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that Bob Arum is the one that made the offer. If the offer is coming from Devin Haney to Shakur Stevenson, you have to imagine that someone else is bankrolling it.
Yeah.
Someone other than Bob Arum.
If it even is an offer, what if it's more of a proposal?
Shakur Stevenson himself responded to Devin Haney's tweet stating Bob Arum was the one that relayed the message. Shakur said, send a real offer. Let's get active, champ.
To which Devin responded, sign the contract. Shakur responded by saying, you're soft for that.
25% is less than I made in my last 3 fights. You people are crazy.
That's what I was telling you guys, that depending on the size of the pot, 25% of the overall pot may in fact be less than what Shakur is making fight by fight. He seems to have a contract minimum of at least $3 million per fight. So let's say that the pot is somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 million.
25% of a $6 million pot is less than Shakur's contract minimum. That's around $1 million, 1.5.
Sounds like what he's saying, that 25% is less than he made in his last 3 fights, to which Devin Haney responded, you will make more than you made in your last 3 fights combined with the 25%.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I don't believe that at all.
No,
if
no,
Shakur
no.
is making $3 million per fight, his last 3 fights would come to a sum total of $9 million. Devin Haney says that he would make in excess of that.
At 25%.
For Shakur Stevenson to make more than $9 million at 25% of the pot, that would have to make the pot a $40 million pot.
Who's going to put up that kind of money for this fight right now?
$40 million for this fight, you'd have to bill it as a pay-per-view to get the money back. To get the money back, you're putting up approximately $40 million.
Devin Haney just made his pay-per-view debut opposite the ring, Vasyl Lomachenko. It did just a little over 100,000 pay-per-view buys. He's not in a place.
Not in a place where he's fighting in $40 million fights. I find this very hard to believe, that 25% of this pot would be more than Shakur has made in his last 3 fights?
Who's bankrolling the fight?
Rick Glacier seems to think that Devin Haney is on his way back to Matchroom, and I hardly think that Matchroom would stake $40 million just to put this fight on. There were also rumors a few weeks ago that Devin Haney has jumped into bed with Skills Challenge, with the Saudis. Now maybe, if the Saudis are involved, maybe they put up that kind of money.
Because they've got it.
They're the only ones with that kind of money to blow on a boxing match. Though why they would spend so much just to put this one on?
It's a lot of money.
But what isn't a lot of pay-per-view buys. Devin Haney versus Shakur Stevenson would be an excellent fight to put on, but I don't know that that fight is a $40 million fight here and now, and nobody is in the business of just giving money away.
We don't have any confirmation that Devin's jumped into bed with the Saudis anyway.
Devin Haney, who at this time still is a network and promotional free agent, free to go where he wants to go. We don't know here and now that he's made a commitment to anyone. Rumors abound. He could be with Skills Challenge. He could be with Matchroom. Who's bankrolling this fight?
This offer Devin claims to have made, an offer worth more to Shakur Stevenson than his last 3 fights.
Shakur Stevenson, who said, Devin the Duck Haney don't want no wreck. I ain't trying to go back and forth on this app. though go about your business, to which Devin Haney responded, I don't duck nobody. Check my resume and check yours.
My honest opinion is that they both have respectable resumes, very good resumes. Devin Haney's got Jojo Diaz and George Kambosos, Vasyl Lomachenko on there.
Shakur Stevenson has 2 world champions in Jamel Herring, Oscar Valdez, and an Olympian in Robson Conceição, a high-risk, low-reward guy that Shakur beat comprehensively.
Don't get too married to the idea that the Saudis are somehow involved in all of this, because that's just me bouncing ideas around. In truth, I never expected that Shakur and Devin would share the ring anytime in the near future. This doesn't seem like a fight that we're on the eve of.
Seems like a fight that we might see down the line up there at 140, maybe even as high as 147. I never expected that after Haney versus Lomachenko, we'd get Stevenson versus Haney.
I didn't.
Though I see some people are already taking sides. Some are siding with Shakur Stevenson, some are siding with Devin Haney, though without more information as to who exactly is bankrolling Devin Haney's proposal, his offer he says he's making to Shakur. Where is that money coming from, and what dollar amount is it? What is it really? Because if it's less than Shakur's contract minimum, you can hardly blame Shakur for turning it down.
And he says he didn't turn it down. He was expecting a second offer.
There's an argument being made that because Devin Haney made certain concessions, sacrifices, to get George Kambosos in the ring, it's only right that Shakur Stevenson makes some concessions, that he makes some sacrifices.
But the concessions Devin made, they weren't fiscal, you understand. The concession that he made was the commitment to fight George Kambosos 2 times in Australia. That's the concession he made.
As far as the money that he got for both fights was right in the neighborhood of what he's been getting fight by fight at Matchroom. He didn't take a hit on the money per se.
The money was comparable to what he normally gets, at or around 2, maybe close to 3 mil.
So the question is Devin's offer to Shakur in the same neighborhood as what Shakur normally gets? Is it in the neighborhood of his contract minimum? I don't see any bad guys here.
And I can't rush to judgment because I don't know what dollar amount Devin is offering Shakur.
Without that information, I can't rush to judgment.
That matters.
I think it does. What exactly is Shakur Stevenson being offered for this fight versus what he already makes?
Who's bankrolling this? Who's the broadcast partner?
Shakur is signed exclusively to Top Rank and ESPN. It's not like he's at liberty to just leave the platform.
Why do you think they're guaranteeing him in the neighborhood of $3 million a fight? Exclusivity!
There are questions that need answers. That's all I'm saying. And just in keeping with the theme of all things super lightweight, newly crowned WBO champion Teofimo Lopez says Teofimo is a Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Is he still running around calling himself a 2-time undisputed champion?
I don't know if that's a delusion of Teofimo's or if he's just saying that to ruffle people's feathers. Your guess is as good as mine, but he did say Teofimo is a Hall of Famer, no doubt. 2-time undisputed world champion, 25 years young, 2-divisional world champion, 2-time lineal world champion.
I think Teofimo being a 2-time lineal, 2-time Ring Magazine, and 2-division champion overall, that's a credible argument to get him in the Hall.
But he was never actually an undisputed champion at lightweight, and I can't believe how many people are still wrestling with this, that Vasyl Lomachenko did not have the WBC world title at the time he lost to Teofimo. He forfeited that title to Devin Haney. That's the process, and that's what it is.
What it was.
The situation at super lightweight is even more conclusive because while he beat Josh Taylor, who was that division's Ring Magazine and lineal champion, once undisputed champion, that's not what he was the night he fought Teofimo Lopez. By that time, he surrendered most of his belts.
3 new champions sprouted up.
Subriel Matias by way of the IBF, Regis Prograis by way of the WBC, and Rolly Romero, however dubious, by way of the WBA.
If Josh Taylor was not undisputed champion at the time that he lost to Teofimo, if he didn't have all the belts...
Teofimo doesn't have them now. What the hell is it that people are arguing about? Teofimo Lopez himself says, I accomplished all of my goals. and I'm happy with what I did, and he should be.
He's still a very accomplished fighter with a solid resume at just 25 years old. There's no shame in Teofimo's body of work so far.
It's impressive. A two-division champion who's collected the scalps of 3 champions overall, Richard Comey, Vasyl Lomachenko,
Josh Taylor.
2-time lineal, 2-time Ring Magazine. There are many champions in the sport of boxing that never see themselves crowned lineal champions or Ring Magazine champions. That Teofimo has done this twice is impressive, and I think Hall of Fame worthy.
But he's not a 2-time undisputed champion, so can it?
Claims to be retired, and as a result of that, the WBO's meeting next week to rule on his 140-pound title and Jermell Charlo's 154-pound title status.
That's en route.
Reconciliation is needed. Next week, the WBO Championships Committee will be dealing with 140 pounds after Teofimo Lopez's resignation. WBO President Francisco Paco Veracel announced Monday evening. Also to be discussed is the current status of the WBO Junior Middleweight title.
We've talked about that.
Jermell Charlo was under orders to satisfy his mandatory challenger, Tim Tszyu, and we know what he decided to do. He decided he's going to move up 2 divisions and take on Canelo instead.
We've talked about that.
There still is this to be addressed. Teofimo Lopez's resignation as newly crowned WBO champion so soon after having won the title. He decided he's going to call it a career. At least that's what he says, and a lot of people, they still don't believe him.
But the WBO is going to be holding a meeting about it next week.
The path to fill the WBO 140-pound title will require an ordered vacant title fight. Brooklyn's Lopez has yet to walk back on his claim that he's done with the sport, not even as he enjoyed himself to the fullest. During Sunday's WBO ceremony in Puerto Rico, the sanctioning body will now have to act accordingly to crown a new king. The top 2 contenders are unbeaten Arnold Barboza Jr. and former unified WBC WBO 140-pound champion Jose Ramirez, 2 of Rick Merrigan's boys.
Many speculate that Teofimo's resignation, his retirement from the sport, will only last as long as it takes for him to finalize his divorce.
And that's a stout observation. I think it's commendable that if Teofimo Lopez really is retiring, even if it does turn out to be temporarily, at least he's not holding anything up, that he has surrendered the WBO title, or so it seems.
It's better than we saw Tyson Fury do. How many times did he announce his retirement while still in possession of the WBC title?
Teofimo, it seems he really is on the verge of surrendering it and allowing a new champion to be crowned in his absence.
At least he's not wasting anybody's time, right?
Right. He's young enough that he can step away from the sport for a while, come back, and still have many good years left. He's only 25.
So, I mean, best wishes to him, I guess.